The records just keep coming as the SEC ties the record for the most teams all time in the Elite Eight set back in 2009. And we're recapping all the action that went down in the Sweet 16 in the rebound.
Auburn, Tennessee, Alabama, and Florida will all be fighting for their right to reach the Final Four. But to get to that Final Four, they'll have to face legendary coaches, much like Tom Izzo, and superstar talents like Cooper Flagg.
The biggest march ever continues. Welcome to the madness. After setting the record for most teams ever in a Sweet 16, SEC ties the record for most teams in an Elite Eight out of a single conference all time. So, Maddie, how did we get here? We got to talk about all the action that went down here today in the rebound. Let's start out, since we were talking about records and everything else, the record that was set on Thursday with just an insane performance from Alabama from deep. They hit 25 threes. 25 threes, which is a new NCAA tournament record. And I'm not even surprised. You know what? We talked about this being a high scoring game. Alabama beats BYU 113 to 88. Have a game. Mark Sears on top of everything else. 34 points, 8 assists, goes 61% from the floor, knocks down 10 threes. Maddie, what did you think about the offensive explosion we saw from Alabama?
Yeah, this game, I mean, I know at times it was close, but it never felt close. It just felt like Alabama was running away with this basketball game. Key and point there, like you said, the 3-point shooting. They held BYU to only 20% while going for almost 50%. Um, so just an absolutely dominant game from Alabama. Honestly, something I kind of expected just because we've seen, as we talked about throughout the season, their defense get better and better with each game. And their offense was almost always on point. Not quite where it was last season, but still fantastic offensive effort from this team. And like you said, setting records on the offensive end of the floor doesn't hurt either.
No, it does not. And look, they were out there just cooking with gas around the 3-point line. The ball movement was really good. The rebounding was outstanding. They cleaned the glass against BYU with 37 rebounds compared to BYU's 36, but I mean, it didn't feel like it. And then BYU had 13 offensive rebounds. Alabama only 10 offensive rebounds, but I mean, it wasn't necessarily they were getting more rebounds. It was the conversion. The conversion. Alabama would get that rebound kick for a three or go back, put it right back up. Over and over and over again. And you just really break down the numbers. Alabama was 53% from the floor. That's how efficient they were. And this is a really good team when you get to the inside on teams. And Clifford Morey, we're all talking about the 3-point shooting and those amazing performances. Clifford Morey had 10.6 rebounds, 50% from the floor, and ended up, having a pretty good game overall in the plus minus. And then also you're talking about Grant Nelson ripping down 10 boards in this game as well. But, everybody on the perimeter play and the backcourt just was on fire. I mean, Chris Youngblood, 19 points. Aiden Holloway, 23 points. LeBaron Filan had 8 points and 6 assists. He was 66% from the floor. These guys just got out there. They were knocking down shots. BYU's defense is not great, and they played a lot of soft coverage around the perimeter, and that's not a good idea when you play Alabama. I don't know exactly what Kevin Young was thinking, but like that soft coverage just I don't know, man. Like that's just not how I think that you need to be playing this team. But I mean, he's got NBA experience. I don't. I got experience coaching Pee Wee basketball.
Yeah, I mean, it was just one of those games that you could almost tell just by looking on the floor who the season coach with the season team was. It was one of those your first year coach at BYU and this team still building chemistry didn't help that there were so many of these key pieces for Alabama have the exact same tournament experience from last season and That's why we always say, experience wins in March, and that one definitely took a toll on BYU in this basketball game.
I think the lesson here was when you get an open shot, take the open shot and make it count. I think that was the lesson learned here. BYU is a developing program right now. They're going to be even better next season. But tonight was that was not their game, and they did not have the game plan that they needed facing Alabama. Alabama also brought their defense, packed the defense, and had a pretty great game themselves. Like I said, Mark Sears was on fire. Just would not be stopped. He's on a heater right now, and they got a huge game we're going to be talking about here in a little bit, coming up with Duke for the Elite Eight. But impressive performance for Alabama. You're right. It started out close there for a little bit, and then Alabama got out and started running, which is similar to what happened in Florida's game. Florida's out here starting to look the part. I mean, they've looked the part for a while. We've just been waiting for the statistics more than anything else to pop up in those national championship trends. But like Florida gets in a little bit of a fist fight in the first half, 40 to 38 in the first half, then goes out and puts up 47 in the second half, clears Maryland by 14 points in the second half. They win at 87 to 71. Maddie, I thought this was a really good performance. Just anywhere that you looked on this Gators team, you could find a good performance overall. What did you think of it in this game, them taking on the Crab Five?
Yeah, I think it's another one of those games that shows why this team has so much championship potential because you look at that first half versus the second half, and you can clearly see all of the adjustments that were made by Todd Golden and his squad. Like I said, phenomenal game all around, 39% from three and 50% from the field, forcing a lot of turnovers that we know Maryland's not normally used to. 38 points in the paint, so Ruben Chinyelu went off in this game, um, and just an all around great adjustment period in the second half from Florida.
Yeah, I will say this. Derek Queen was the big talking point in this, and Gillespie had a good game too, for Maryland. But Florida just couldn't put a handle on Derek Queen. But it really just they matched everywhere else. They matched everywhere else. Reese goes for 12 points for Maryland. Hout puts up 13. You go for Gillespie, who had 17 points. Walter Clayton had 15 of his own. Elijah Martin had 14 points. Aberdeen had 12 points. Chinyalu was 10 and 8 in this game. They just found guy after guy. Richard had 15 points and 4 rebounds. Like they found guy after guy to make contribution and run up and down the court with Maryland. And really, when they started getting out in transition, it was getting ugly at that point, and it really changed the basketball game. It didn't matter that you couldn't guard one guy; it was taking away everything else and focusing in on your game, and that really propelled Florida through. And this is another game here now for the Gators where the shooting is moving in that direction that you want to see. They're now 0.03 away from that national championship trend of 36%. Maybe they can get there by the end of the year because they had another night. They almost shot 40% again here. They're getting better shooting during the tournament. Their performances, shooting behind the arc, they hit 11 threes in this game. They're a good three-point shooting team. They're now in the top 75 in the country, which is the outside statistic. Normally you'd look for 36%, but they do also say top 75. Florida's in the trend or really reasonably close to the trend at this point, to where you say this is no longer a team who would be breaking history in some fashion, which it was always on the three-point shooting. But like, yeah, this team is going closer and closer to what looks like a national champion. And that has to do with guys like Walter Clayton going out there and knocking down shots all throughout March, which he was doing in this game too. And then you got Elijah Martin, who's been there. He's done that. He's been to a Final Four. He's raising his game at the right time of the year. And then Will Richards out here, he hasn't been the most consistent shooter on this Florida team, but he's playing good basketball and good defense right now. This backcourt's really good for Florida. They have a very deep front court overall. They're looking the part right now. I'll say this, Maddie, is there anybody playing better basketball than Florida right now in this tournament?
I mean, after watching these Sweet 16 games, not really.
No.
I mean, we saw Alabama, but that was a good matchup for them. We saw what some of these other teams did, and the most dominant looking teams, I think, were Florida and Alabama. Pretty much everybody else had a close call here or there. Um, I mean, Florida close call in the front half, but we saw those adjustments made, and they absolutely dominated the second.
Yep. I mean, they're right there. They're close to this point. If you have Florida picked in your bracket, it makes sense. Right now, they're this close to checking every single box you're looking for a historic trend national champion. Speaking of teams that are on that historic trend of national champions, the team that came in as the only team in the country checking all those boxes to the NCAA tournament were the Auburn Tigers. We knew there was going to be a front court battle. And we also knew there was probably going to be some post-traumatic stress from Auburn fans in this game. But overall, seeing Danny Wolf back on the court apparently was not scary enough as Auburn takes down Michigan 78-65. Big game. Really, what changed the whole game is this sequence where Michigan kept fouling and fouling and fouling, and Auburn was contesting everything. They really got down by like nine, I think it was 8 or 9 points there in the second half, and to sit there and went, that's enough. We have got to quit turning over the basketball. We have got to start making our shots, and we've got to play better defense. And all of a sudden, Auburn's the better team for the final 8 minutes or 8, 9 minutes of that game and turns it completely on, shuts Michigan down. It's all Auburn basketball at that point. And Tahad Pettiford absolutely goes off in this game for 20 points. But if it wasn't for Janai Broome putting up 22 and 16 and grinding out those early minutes while Auburn was still trying to figure themselves out, Auburn loses this basketball game. Your thoughts on it, Maddie?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things you touched on was the turnovers and each team capitalizing off of that. While they both had 15 turnovers, you saw Arkansas or Auburn with 10 additional points, then Michigan off of those turnovers. That's that front court. Those are those hustle points that you got to work for. So, little things like that, just capitalizing off of a still here or a forced turnover there, really won Auburn this basketball game, like you said. It definitely wasn't the 3-point shooting from either team that won this basketball game.
No, there's some ugly
One of
shooting
the worst
tonight.
we've seen. um, but like you said, that front court went to work and it made a difference for sure.
The front court for Auburn had to play tough throughout this game because Vlad Golden and Danny Wolf combined for 30 points. They were cleaning glass and they were knocking down some shots and they were playing some really smart ball. Combined they go 30 and 15 together. Solid play overall. And Danny Wolf is an NBA talent. I don't think that's deniable to anyone who watched this game. Like he played great. It was just eventually Auburn turned up the defense and realized that Danny Wolf can't beat you alone. Like he can't beat you alone. You got to shut down everything else behind it. And that's when the ball started going to Roddy Gale. That's when it went to Burnett more. Vlad Golden, he played good, but you still got, you've got to make somebody else beat you, and that's what Auburn's defense eventually got in there and did. And then additionally on that, it doesn't hurt when you start getting yourself a little bit more physical. We saw the fouls turn up just a little bit for Auburn, but they were knocking down their free throws, 14 for 18 from the line. Michigan had more opportunities that probably would have helped them. We've seen this Michigan team be a little shaky at times from the free throw line, but I'm just really impressed with the like 11 minutes left, the last 11 minutes of this game with Auburn. Maybe that's a moment they figured themselves out. Maddie, do you still like Auburn with a solid chance to win the national title? I know that it hasn't been perfect here to close the season. They've had some close calls, but they've had some really good matchups in the front court throughout their portion of this bracket coming in to this game that's challenged their best player.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still a good, solid chance that Auburn could win a national championship. Um, but I think we've already kind of seen them peak, and I think this is what we're seeing is kind of the fall off of that. Um, as you get in there and play these tougher teams, we'll talk about this game against Michigan State, but you're gonna have some really good teams that are gonna challenge you, and these continual challenges seem to be causing a lot more pressure than they did earlier this season.
I will say this: if you get the guard play from Denver Jones and Jahad Pettiford like you got tonight, where they're combining for 40 points, I'll take that any night of the week if I'm Bruce Pearl. And I'll ride with that. I'll ride with that 60 with the 62 points that I got out of Denver Jones, Jahad Pettiford, and Janai Broom tonight. If I could get that ever on a consistent basis, I just got to figure out the rest around it to get the other points that I need to push myself over. I still really like Auburn's chances. They're a good basketball team. They're playing like a team that's got a chance to win a national title. I just would say at this point, they were the best team throughout the regular season. Right now, I think Florida is the only team I can point to who's playing at a level higher where I would start inserting doubt at this point. But Maddie, we finally had our first SEC on SEC crime game of the NCAA tournament. You probably thought that you'd see more at this point. But Maddie, I'm just going to say it. It's hard to beat a team three times in a row as Tennessee beats Kentucky 78 to 65. Maddie, this was a game, honestly. Kentucky led by one, their largest lead of the night, with 17:54 left in the first half. And then Tennessee proceeded to beat the crud out of Kentucky and return to a mean, which had to be very satisfying if you're a Tennessee fan. They went, like I said, they ended up winning this game 78-65. They were up 43 to 28 at half. Kentucky actually outscores them by two in the second half, but there was also just some stupid stuff that Rick Barnes was a little bit frustrated with at the end of the game that you can see yelling at his guys about. But Tennessee dominates Kentucky. The computer's finally right. Man, everybody picking Kentucky or Tennessee to beat Kentucky throughout the season. And here's the crazy thing. Tennessee still didn't shoot well from three.
Yeah, I mean, this game, um, I could just I don't know what it was. I feel like I could feel it. Um, and I know at some point in this locker room, you've got Rick Barnes saying, "Let them beat us in the regular season. This is the game that actually mattered."
This
Uh,
is the bigger one. Like, yeah, this is if you're gonna lose twice in the regular season, but you're gonna win in the Sweet 16 against your rival. Yeah, I think you take that all day long. Like, I think that's what most coaches would say. It's like, yeah, get us the big one.
yeah, and then I think you look over this game, and the biggest downfall here was just some bad mistakes by Kentucky late in the game that it was their game to lose, honestly. I think take out some of those bad fouls, you take out some of those turnovers, and they could have won this basketball game, but Tennessee kept that consistent defense that we've seen all season long. Their subpar offense got them through, but the defense is what mattered in this one, and Tennessee's elite defense is what won them this basketball game.
It wasn't just the fact that they have a good defense, is that they were chasing Kentucky off the 3-point line. Kobe Brea did not have a good game in this game at all. He walked away with 5 points and shot 14% from the field. You're talking about one of the best shooters in college basketball. You held to 14% from the field. And like I said, they were chasing them around the floor. Kentucky only shot 15 threes in this game. You're talking about a team that likes to shoot about 25, 20 to 25 threes or more. And Tennessee chased them off the line. It didn't matter they shot 40%. They knocked down six. Whereas Tennessee, as poorly as they were shooting threes in this game, they were able to knock down five. And then the difference has been in every game, Tennessee had done the little things right. They had shot better at the free throw line. They had out rebounded Kentucky. They had done, just this. They were shooting better from two than Kentucky in all three matchups. It was just literally they could not knock down threes to end up getting softer and easier looks to increase efficiency numbers overall with that soft coverage that Pope was running. This time, they got out and they started hitting shots early, changed the situation a little bit. They didn't stay consistent to it, but by that point, they had, Kentucky had to respect it a little bit more. And they played, they played still a better overall basketball game in those margins. And those margins made a huge difference at the end of the game. 15 points worth of difference. And then you're talking about Zakai Ziegler coming out there with a double double in this game in points and assists. He had 18 points, 10 assists, one rebound, one steal, goes plus 12. Felix Okpara is 2 points away from a double double himself, bringing down 11 rebounds. And then Jordan Gainey's out here shooting 50% from the floor, but wasn't exactly killing it from three. But you just super efficient and playing tough. This was a good defensive performance, but they took away the one thing Kentucky has to have for their offense to operate. Is that they have to be able to shoot threes. If they don't shoot threes, you crowd the paint because most teams are bigger, stronger than them. Like outside of Amari Williams and Otego away, like those are the guys built for. And Brandon Garrison, they're shooters. They're not these type of players, and that's not a game that Kentucky wants to play, especially when you talk about those points per possession. So, like, it was a good game plan. It was tough defense, and it really paid out and played well for Tennessee. Here's what I'm going to do in this one. We're not going to talk about all the bad things or anything else. Is like Kentucky should have come out and shot better and whatnot. Like I said, we're going to stick to this trend. What does this mean? Mark Pope just came off an awesome season.
Hmm.
He just came off an awesome season. He beat all these top 25 teams this year, and he took Kentucky back to the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2019. I know you just lost to your rival in what was the biggest game of the year, and that hurts a lot. But there's nothing but optimism right now for this Kentucky team. They're moving in a good direction. Mark Pope just has to do well in the portal this offseason to continue this trajectory that Kentucky's on. So overall, it's going to sting for a minute, but I think if you're a Kentucky fan, you're going, this is a return to a norm at this point. Maddie?
Yeah, I think so too. And, you've got to take into consideration this is a brand new basketball team. They had virtually no turnover. You've got Mark Pope. While he's, known at Kentucky, it is still his first year as a head coach. And a lot of people couldn't dream of getting to the NCAA tournament, let alone this far into the NCAA tournament with a brand new coach and a brand new team.
And
So I
most
think,
teams, like, yeah, just to even further that point, I'm gonna let you continue your thought there. But like last season, teams who took over seven transfers, like I think it was 80% didn't make the NCAA tournament this year. He had a complete roster overhaul. There were no players on this Kentucky team, and he ends up taking to the Sweet 16. Go ahead. Sorry,
yeah.
continue that thought.
So,
I'm enhancing it.
yeah, no, so just massive, massive year for Kentucky that, like I said, is kind of beyond what most programs would expect. I'm sure a lot of Kentucky fans expected something like this to happen, just because of the optimism and the history of the program. But there's nothing you can take away from them.
No,
It's been a great year, and it's only going to continue to get better.
yeah, it was an absolutely great year. I'm with you. There's nothing to take away here at all. From Kentucky, they had an awesome season, and they get some exciting news in the portal about Cam Williams. Maddie, I know it's in our rundown, but I decided I'm going to do that on a solo show. We're just going to talk about Elite Eight stuff as we finish wrapping up here on the night. Maddie, we unfortunately got started off there talking about Kentucky with the folks who did not make the Elite Eight, as we'll put it. And one of that was my alma mater. Arkansas did not end up making the Elite Eight on an absolute heartbreaker. One of the toughest games that I have ever swallowed as a Razorback fan. Absolutely brutal. 85-83 loss to Texas Tech in overtime. It was a walk-off layup that sinks for Williams for Texas Tech. DJ Wagner has a chance to answer, does not get a great look, but puts the ball up as best he can. One chance at the rebound, just nothing works out at the end. A heartbreaker in the fact that this was also just a huge comeback from Texas Tech, and it really looked like Arkansas was ready to blow Texas Tech out. Just started making some mistakes, got too dependent on the three-pointer. Texas Tech starts playing a little bit softer around the perimeter and starts crashing into the paint to take it away from Arkansas to get the inefficient shots. That's really what started with the on the defensive end for Texas Tech to get that run going, and they finally started knocking down threes like they were capable of. And then Williams and Frederico had a really good breakout rebounding session. That was really the turning point to me is when Texas Tech got on that series of rebound after rebound after rebound after rebound, and then me hitting my head on the couch, just screaming, grab the ball. But yeah, tough one to swallow for the Razorbacks. Maddie, I'll let you start your thoughts here, and then I'll wrap it up on what this loss means for Razorback fans.
Yeah, so I will say my day was much better today in the fact that I fell asleep before I got to witness that travesty.
You were one of them who woke up shocked. You went to
Yeah,
bed like you fell asleep
yeah. I
up
was like, we
16.
were we were ahead. I woke up and checked the score because I fell asleep on the couch and like woke up at like 2 a.m. and was like, oh my gosh, what happened? And at that point I was like delusional anyway, since I was half asleep still. So I was like, I'll worry about it in the morning. So it was like I knew, but I didn't have to witness how heartbreaking and terrible it was. Um, but yeah, I mean, just a total turnaround from the Hogs. And I know I texted you at one point early in that and was like, Texas Tech isn't going to continue to miss as much as they are.
Yeah.
Uh, well, I mean, the Hogs had some great defense in the beginning. Um, after watching highlights, slowly started to slip there. Like you said, became reliant on the 3-point shot, which is not what that team is about. So going back and looking over everything, it's just kind of one of those like, so we gave the game away basically, which is disappointing. But again, like Kentucky, not anywhere any fans expected this team to be. So I'll take it with a grain of salt.
I am going to miss performances from guys like Janelle Davis. I'm happy that he went out in a game like that. I wish he had the last shot, but the dude put up 30 points.
Yep.
It was an awesome performance. 6 rebounds, 1 assist, goes +4. Knocking down threes, really pushing Arkansas the best he could. And then, Carter Knox showed flashes of who he can be in the future. And, he put up 20 points in this game and was knocking down threes. But I'm also going to miss Jonas Adu. Well, not his best game, not his best game against Texas Tech, but a player that, really turned it on late in the season. I liked a lot of the things Jonas was doing throughout the later part of the year. And like, I'm going to miss those guys. They're great basketball players. But the good news is that you turn now to a point where you're talking about retention, portal, and you have a really good recruiting class coming in. There are some things to be cleaned up on for Cal, probably some late game decision things to be made and some other things that need to go down. But I think that there's an optimistic future for Arkansas fans. This was a complete turnaround. You saw the vision and you have an idea what this team can be in the future. So it's exciting right now. You made a Sweet 16, you made a really good run, and you turned a year around. If you had played like that throughout the entire course of the year, no telling where this team could be right now. So for me, this was one of those games that's tough to swallow in the moment. But once you step away from it, I think walk away feeling pretty good and optimistic about the future overall for the Razorbacks. Like I said, it'll be a fun team to follow here throughout the offseason to see how the development goes. But one more game to talk about. This one happened here on Friday night. It was the first game. It was Ole Miss falls one bucket short of history. Matthew Morrell had to throw up a bomb, a 29-foot bomb, just cannot get it. But Michigan State ends up beating Ole Miss 73-70. Maddie, Ole Miss had never made an Elite Eight before, and they just came up a little bit short late. They led for most of this game, but Tom Izzo was able to grind it out there at the end. Ole Miss was up as much as 10, but they Michigan State's got some guards, but Maddie, tell me your thoughts on Ole Miss here, late in the year. Year two under Chris Beard, taking this team to a Sweet 16. You're losing a lot of your roster next year, but basketball seems to matter in Oxford now.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot different opinions from the fan base that we were, especially when we kind of started the show and you were in the rough Kermit Davis era. And you had your one guy in Matthew Morrell who you could rely on, and then Chris Beard comes in, like you said, year two, getting them in the position to make history with the program. You can't be mad at that. Well, it almost feels like the Arkansas game where it was given away there at the end. But overall, great year for Ole Miss. You just can't bet against Tom Izzo in March.
Yeah, it's hard to bet against Tom Izzo in March. Yeah, there's a lot of seniors out the door, but I think this raised the bar at Ole Miss more than anything else. They raised the bar, and there's an optimistic direction. You'll be excited to follow what Chris Beard's doing. Basketball matters right now in Ole Miss for sure. So, tough one to swallow. Similar to Arkansas, you just gave it away late, but you can see the direction the program's here heading right now, and I think that's an encouraging sign. Um, you just really hope that you could bring in the transfers to continue this trajectory for your program moving forward. I think you'll be able to bring some in for sure and keep this moving in a positive direction. You got a coach and you got a really talented coach there for Ole Miss, 100%. All right, Maddie, let's talk about the Elite Eight. And ironically, the only team not in the top eight in KenPom making this Elite Eight run is Gonzaga, who was knocked out in the round of 32 by Houston. But Texas Tech, the number nine team in KenPom, rounds out the Elite Eight. This has been the chalkiest tournament in the history of tournaments. The underdog is a three seed. You remember back when we did our bracket overhaul and somehow we put all one seeds in the final four when we got done walking through the bracket the first time? We also, remember we were just like, that's not going to happen. There's no way that it's going to be all one seeds in the end. All the one seeds are alive. Like this is the chalkiest tournament in the history of chalk. Like this
Mhm.
insane results from this. But Maddie, let's get this whole thing started. And let's hit the first corner of the bracket here, which is going to be going down on Saturday. Florida takes on Texas Tech. We just saw this Texas Tech team get out of a battle with Arkansas. Maddie, tell me kind of your thoughts here between the Red Raiders and the Gators.
Obviously the main guy you got to touch on is JT Toppin. But on the other side, you've got a deep, deep Florida front court. So
Yes.
he's going to have to go up against that. We saw JT Toppin struggle a little bit early in the game against Arkansas when, Jonas Adu was playing some great defense. Trevin Brazil was playing some good basketball. But he's going to have to do that all over again with Florida, with Alex Condon, Ruben Chinyelu,
And Hauk, yeah.
how guys who have been having phenomenal games, like we said in the rebound. Florida's just been so dominant. It's crazy. So I think what we're looking for here is the guard play in Florida to kind of come alive and push them through this game because I think they're going to be kind of reliant on that front court for Texas Tech.
Not only do I think Florida has the front court depth to be really physical with JT Toppin and Williams and cause a lot of problems on the interior for them. They're larger. The guards are still bigger. Like just like when Texas Tech played Arkansas, everywhere you look, they're bigger at every position. Same case, same song and dance, and we saw how well that worked out with Arkansas. For the most part of that game, it was a war between an Arkansas team that was, having problems at times with offensive efficiency, but I mean, they were up 16 and some calls go a couple of different ways. It's overall Florida is red hot, shoots better, shoots more consistent, larger and deeper. Like it's the next step up. Like,
Yep.
it's like Texas Tech beat Arkansas, then hit upgrade, and like here we go. Like enjoy this. And you're right. Like the depth everywhere that you look at it is there. When you look guard on guard play, Elijah Martin possibly guarding, Walter Clayton or Elijah Martin guarding Elijah Hawkins. That's tough. Texas Tech out their best scorer with Chance McMillan. That's tough. And then JT Toppin's going to have to come out. Not out of the game, but he's going to have to come out from the paint to, where it's going to open driving lanes for guys like Will Richard because anywhere that you look, like if you're paired up with Alex Condon, that's a 33% shooter from deep, and he's not afraid to rip it. And then you're also talking about, Hauk, 33% shooter as well. And he even shoots more threes than Condon does. So, I mean, Well, actually, no, that's no, no, I'm right. No, I'm just looking at the numbers just the wrong way here, but I'm right. Houck will also step out and shoot a three, and they're about the same size between Houck and Toppin there. So, I mean, then you got Ruben Chinyelu, who's also going to get on the floor. He's not going to shoot your threes, but you're talking about your most physical big man with a lot of size and an additional inch on JT Toppin. So there's three dudes on this team out there. Just again, there's a huge size advantage, top 10 defense, top three offense, and they're getting better as they go through the tournament here. This is a terrifying basketball team to play. The offensive rebounding here, Frederico is going to have to get up there and grab a lot more boards than what he did against Arkansas, because this is an even better offensive rebounding team, top five in the country. So yeesh. Logic just goes to me here, and I'm just like, Florida, just pack your bags. You're going to the Final Four. Kim Palm's got this game going 82-76 at 70%. I don't think it's even going to be 5 points. I think Florida's getting ready. I think Florida's ready to get out there and just, I think it's going to get bad. I think it's going to get real bad, Maddie.
Yeah, I mean, everywhere you look, every single team stat, Florida is better than Texas Tech. And like you said, this team just continues to improve, continues to get better. So I think we're gonna have. I don't think it's gonna be the score that Alabama and BYU had, but it's gonna be a large point disparity for sure.
Here's the one thing I will say before I jinx Florida. They're overdue for a stinker. Like, really bad. They haven't lost this month. And we're 29 days into the month. So their last loss came February 25th against Georgia on the road. They have won every neutral site game they've been on. And they just been on a heater, and they've beaten top 20 teams in Ken throughout this ride. Top 10 teams in Ken three top 10 teams, a top 20, actually four top 10 teams during this run, and then Texas A&M and Ole Miss, who are top 20, and Missouri, who's top 20. I mean, they're out there just beating it. They're overdue massively for a stinker. You just hope it's not this game. Like, you just really hope that it's not this game to get a trip to the Final Four if you're Florida, because you are the better basketball team in comparison to Texas Tech. So you got to make sure, if you're Todd Golden, hey guys, just clear your minds of this whole Final Four nonsense. We got a game to win today. Like, just keep their minds, eye on the prize. It's a two-game tournament every weekend as you move forward if you're Ty Golden. So just get your guys ready for the game. He's a coach. He knows exactly that's exactly what his goal is going to be. Get your guys ready for this Elite Eight game. Don't worry about anything else, because this is a team that can hurt you shooting threes. This is a team that's going to play at their own pace and do things totally different. But you are better than Texas Tech. I think you're going to beat them more than just like 6 points as the computer thinks. But you got to have them locked in, because this is March, and that's when chaos likes to just hide in the corners out there. Yep, it is a team that's ready to start lighting you up from three, and you're not playing your best game. That's a recipe always for disaster. All right, let's talk about the next one on here, because Alabama's going to get one of the premier teams in college basketball, and that is the Duke Blue Devils, who are led by obviously superstar Cooper Flagg. And Maddie, this is the number one team in Kim Pom. Share me your thoughts on this game, and I'll go a little bit deeper. We'll hit this really quick, but we've kind of talked about it in that preview video I did for Alabama fans. Super talented team in Duke. A lot of future NBA talent, even outside of Cooper Flagg.
Yeah, I think this game for me is a good matchup for Alabama, especially the Alabama team that played BYU. I think if they can play a similar style of game, they have a large chance of winning this basketball game, because we've seen, not as much as of late, but earlier in the year, some of those freshman fumbles that we like to point out. And I think this senior Alabama roster can cause a little bit of that disruption. And make some of that basketball IQ that's not tenured, that's not established, go out the window for some of these Duke players. So I think Alabama has a fantastic opportunity here, against a Duke team that is good, but I don't think they're quite national championship level.
Here's the thing. The only team I can compare this to in Duke's schedule is North Carolina. North Carolina and the pace that they like to play with. I heard some people suggesting Auburn. Auburn plays much slower than Alabama.
Mm.
Alabama's at ludicrous speed, like the way they play. We talk about Auburn being slow, or being methodical, like overall. Alabama's fast, fast. Like this is totally different than that. So like, and this is a team that plays even faster than North Carolina. This would be more akin to the Arizona game that we saw in the last round. Except the difference here is that Arizona is not really the three-point shooting team that Alabama is. Alabama's not electric from three, except when they have games like they did against BYU this season. But they got certainly dudes who can knock it down, especially when left open. So like that's what makes them exceptionally dangerous. And I mean, it was a contest. It was a contest between Arizona and Duke the other night. There was times Arizona was leading in that game and then Duke took control and things like that. They're going to play that again. And Duke has not faced a team this level of speed yet this season. Um, and to me, like, I mean, I don't know how that's going to be a recipe. They've got nothing like this they've seen on their schedule in the ACC. And honestly, I also just continue to think they didn't play that tough anywhere the schedule that Alabama's played or these SEC teams have played. They didn't beat an SEC team outside of Cameron Indoor during the non-conference. And then Alabama's a lot older too. A lot of freshmen on this Duke team playing fast, getting fatigued. We kind of also saw how that worked out when they played Kentucky earlier in the season, the Champions Classic. I think you're right. I think this is a game that if Alabama's hitting some shots, it starts becoming it starts getting a little worrisome for Duke. I don't know if they end up winning this thing, even with as good a defense as they play, because the only thing I think that I've seen when Duke blows teams out, it's because they're playing Duke's game. I
Yeah.
don't think Alabama has any interest in playing Duke's game at all. That is nowhere close to the type of game that Alabama wants to play.
Yeah, and I think we see Nate Oates prepare his team for that. Like they're going to want to play their style of basketball. We're not going to let them. I think that he pushes the defense an extra mile. I think we're going to see a lot of turnovers from Duke in this game because he's going to have his guys locked in on the ball.
One thing is that Alabama hasn't forced a ton of steals, but they are one of the better teams out there when it comes to not turning over the basketball in non-steal situations themselves. So they take care of the ball better than most teams. And then, like I said, they're going to offer that three-point shot. And if it gets rocking, we know what kind of points they can put up. I mean, this is a team that's put up 100 points multiple times this season and frequently in the 90s. This is an elite level offense when they're getting out there and they're playing their pace. Sure, Duke put up 90 some or put up 100 points on Arizona the other night, but Arizona was right there with them. And you're talking about a team that is better defensively than Arizona and better offensively than Arizona. I think this is going to be a real challenge on back-to-back nights playing a team, of high speed. And you're also talking about with this Alabama team that's averaging in comparison to that five more possessions a game. Five more possessions a game. That's five more chances at threes. That's a 15-point possibility there in the margin between these two. So I don't know. I'm kind of like you. I just really think that if a team's gonna beat Duke, it's a team like Alabama. Like I think they're built to beat a team like this. And like I said, a lot of freshmen on this Duke team. Number of McDonald's All-Americans going down in the Final Four over the last 12 years. Just saying. Kim Palm's got this game 87-81 at 70% going to Duke. I don't know. I don't know. Duke's 1.96 years of experience in college basketball compared to Alabama, who is at 2.99 in the top 10 oldest teams in the country. And they're very deep at every position. Maddie, do you like the spread or what are you thinking here?
I think I'm betting the over in this one. I think we are going to have some lights out shooting. Um, and I wouldn't be shocked if we see over 200 combined score.
I think it's a possibility that we get something in the 190s. I really do. I think a combined score of 190 is very much
Yeah.
on the table. All right, so that's one way of playing. The other way of playing is Tennessee Houston, which is going to be a defensive war going down in Indianapolis as the What is it right now? So Houston's the number one defense in the country right now. Tennessee is the number three defense in the country, the number 17 offense and the number 12 offense. Maddie, um, what do you like here? What do you
I
like?
feel I feel like this game is gonna be like, when you're sitting at work on a Friday, you're like, "Oh, surely it's almost 5 o'clock," and you look down and it's only been 2 minutes since you looked and it was 3:45.
Yep.
Like this is gonna be that basketball game, which, I love a mental battle. I love a good chess game when it comes to basketball. And I think when you have Rick Barnes and you have Kelvin Sampson, two phenomenal coaches that like to play their style of basketball, we are going to be in an iron lock situation where I don't know if this game's going to get out of the 60s. Like it is going to be slow. It is going to be, like I said, methodical, but it's going to be a great basketball game to watch if you love the X's and O's.
I'm just gonna be watching. I heard watching two guys like LJ Cryer and Chaz Lanier. Who is better offensively? And
Basically.
then can Zakai Ziegler orchestrate his way through Houston's very aggressive attacking defense? I think he can. Obviously they attack ball screens very hard, and Zakai is going to have to make really good passes and understand that the wing might be available a little bit more. So I think Barnes has to set that up, but it's not the same way that Purdue played Houston today, which I'm surprised, having a little bit of a home court advantage for Purdue, I think helped because I did not think that was going to be an advantageous situation for the way that Purdue plays. I think Zakai Ziegler has to be that kind of level of point guard where he's in complete control. It doesn't matter that you're blitzing him right now off the screen line. So I think that's going to be a big part of this game. So that's really what it comes down to me in these major contributors. Who keeps the offense going when these two are shutting the other team down possession by possession? Just over here, there, and everywhere. Like Tennessee, number three, 3-point defense in the country, 28.5 percent, allowed for opponents when you just compare that to Houston, who's only allowing 30.5, like top 25 3-point defense, but one of the best 2-point defenses in the country. This is going to be insane and super slow. Like I said, 360 pace for Houston, Tennessee, and 349th pace in the country. Like, so not the way we watch
Can we
basketball. Now, in the
just
year
go
of our
down?
Lord 2025, I didn't know people still wanted to play basketball this way, but apparently Rick Barnes and Kelvin Sampson do.
Yeah, can we just go down the team stats for both of these? Because this is like how insane this game is about to get. Points per game, you've got Tennessee at 74.6, Houston at 74.5. Field goal percentage, 45.5 for Tennessee, 45.7 for Houston. Rebounds, both 36.5.
Yep.
Like the only real major difference you've got here is assists, and it's only by three.
Yeah.
Like in almost every way, these teams are so similar. It's terrifying. And it is, like I said, it is going to be the slowest basketball game that we feel like we watched all year, but it's going to be one of the best when it comes to what's happening on the floor.
What I will give credit for Houston is that they have been the more consistent 3-point shooting team this season. That may play very, very large in a game where no one can score. So, yeah. Kim Bob's got this game 63-61 at 58% because they're the same team. So why wouldn't they get out there and do this? Obviously, they have some key differences, but yeah, everything you would expect this to be a tight one. I'm right on that line.
Yep.
Yeesh. Yeesh. Like I said, I like Houston with the national championship. It will not surprise me at all. Tennessee's a good matchup for Houston, and I think that's going to be a great basketball game.
Yeah, I think this is basically going to be like a scrimmage early in the season because, like you said, same basketball team. It'd be like you could probably swap players and you wouldn't get you know, anything extra because it's the same team.
Same team. All right, so Auburn has to face a Hall of Fame coach, or and Michigan State in their Elite Eight matchup facing the Spartans here. Maddie, this is Atlanta. It's going to be a home court advantage for Auburn in this one. But Tom Izzo's got this team going in the right direction. They shot well against Ole Miss, but they're not a great 3-point shooting team either. But they have the depth at the guard position to make it really interesting. Any thoughts on this one?
Like you said, depth in the guard position, I think, is key there. Because like we said in the rebound, we've seen Janai Broom, um, his stats kind of decline over the length of the tournament, and I think that's just finally playing
They haven't
better.
declined as so much not been the same impact in a way. Like I think that's, getting away from the numbers. I mean, he put up 22 points tonight.
Yeah, true, but he's gonna have to do that. I think double time against Michigan State, because, like you said, they've got some elite guard play. I think that Michigan State could possibly take out Auburn's guards out of contention in this game. I think it's going to be a fight on the backcourt line. So I think the difference here is that Auburn is going to have to flex their bigger front court um, for Michigan State not to come in and get a win here.
I do agree on some level. Like Jaden Akins, Trey Holloman, and Jeremy Fears, you don't know which one of those dudes are going to go off in any given night, and because that is an extremely balanced guard attack. They're going in the 1 through 3 situation that they line up at, and then Carr's a really good contributor. Collier's a really good contributor. Jace Richardson's a really good contributor, and like the backcourt depth is great, and they're all very good on defense. Like this team is great on the defensive end, and one of the reasons they get away with shooting 31% from three is that the opponents are averaging 28% from three against them. So like it becomes a pace game. It becomes a game about defense. It becomes like a game about efficiency. This is Texas A&M in a sense. Like, this is a good rebounding team. This is a team that converts at the free throw line. Like, they do the little things that in the margins really well. And that's why Tom Izzo is having so much success from this team. But like I said, Jace Richardson, Trey Holloman, Jeremy Fears, like those guys can get threes when you need threes. Same with Collier, who can help out and step out a little bit and get you a three as well there in the front court. So it's not like they're not going to hit threes. They're just not going to choose those threes because they are the worst remaining 3-point shooting team in the tournament here. But Auburn, they came off shooting 30% tonight against Michigan. Not their best performance shooting either, and they're going to have an even tougher backcourt to match up with in around the perimeter in this game. So I'm watching for a very tough basketball game between these two. For who's able to prevail overall. Now they just locked horns with Ole Miss, so who knows on how that's going to go. But you're right. I think the presence in the front court is going to make the biggest difference in this game for Auburn. They're finally, to me, Janai Broom's been in matchups in the first, since the round of 32 here in the Sweet 16 round of 32. They've had some really tough front court games. In games where they've had to have Janai Broom rise to the occasion the best he could. They needed him against Michigan. They could have used a lot more against Creighton earlier this season. This is the first time that I think that he's, even with the size difference, not facing the same caliber of big man that he has faced here in the first 2 rounds of the tournament, him and Dylan Cardwell. So I think that's finally going to be a piece of relief for them in a comparison game. So to me, I like Auburn to win, but I will put nothing past Tom Izzo in March, especially because given his track record, the man is massively overdue to make another Final Four, and that would just be the icing on the cake for him at this point. So I will not put anything away from Michigan State at all. But computer has this one going to Auburn 76-71 at 67%. I think that's pretty spot on. I think 2 out of 3 times Auburn wins this basketball game. We're going to find out what version that is on Sunday night. Maddie?
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think it is going to be very much a rock fight. I think it's going to come down to uh, free throw shooting. I think that's going to be a large contributor at the end of this basketball game, and it's going to be one of those where the last 10 minutes probably is going to feel as long as the Tennessee Houston game is going to feel because we're going to be at the free throw line constantly.
Yep, I think that's certainly going to be the case. Hey guys, if you have not already, please like and subscribe to the Hoop Southbound Show. We greatly appreciate you joining us here as we continue our Welcome to the Madness coverage throughout the month of March until the end of the season. If you have not already, check out some of those videos on the regions and things like that here in the Elite Eight. I've got videos on some of the possible opponents and things like that you teams are likely to be facing. I'm going to do one more when we get to the Final Four. Surely we'll have an SEC team in the Final Four, so I will be continuing at least one more episode of that, more than likely, considering that we have the possibility for an all SEC Final Four at this point. And like I said, I talked about the record here on last show when we got done talking about the round of 32 because the SEC broke the Sweet 16 record. And I mentioned that it had to be 4 out of the 8 to tie the record with the Big East. Mission accomplished there. The record for the Final Four is 3 out of the 4 teams set in 1985 by the Big East. Those teams being St. John's, Georgetown, and Villanova. Unlike that year, we will not have an 8 seed in this year's NCAA tournament to go win the national championship, which was that Nova team. Um, but certainly, we might have the possibility to see 3 SEC teams in the Final Four. We'll see what happens there, guys. But yeah, please like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.